Coming up on Network Africa, West African leaders meet in Niamey, Niger to discuss the political situation in Mali and for the 57th session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame denies his government kidnapped Paul Rusesabagina. Plus, South Africa drops to 7th among countries with the highest number of coronavirus cases globally. Thank you for joining us this hour. Welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin this week with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
On Sunday, Mali military officers said that ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta left the country to the United Arab Emirates on Saturday for medical treatment. Reports say the 75-year-old suffered a minor stroke. This comes as junta held talks with opposition and civil society groups about a transition to civilian rule. Residents in and around Dakar were cleaning up debris and mud on Sunday after a heavy rain caused severe flooding across Senegal. Homes were damaged and furniture were covered in mud in a residential area in the outskirts of Dakar. In nearby Guédiawaye, volunteers were removing water from a heavily flooded health center serving 6 local communities. Senegal's President Macky Sall has activated an emergency aid plan, and Water Minister Mbaye Thiam said that more rain fell on a single day than the country would usually see during 3 months in the rainy season. Security officials in Tunisia say a police officer was killed and another wounded in a knife attack in the coastal resort of Sousse. 3 assailants were shot dead after the incident, which has been described as a terrorist attack. In 2015, Sousse was the scene of one of Tunisia's worst attacks when 38 people, most of them British tourists, were killed by a gunman. The latest incident comes 2 days after a new government was sworn in. The suspected militants rammed their vehicle into a National Guard checkpoint at a junction near the city's port.
President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria is in Niamey, Niger Republic, where he is participating in the 57th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. The president will participate in a special session on COVID-19 where he is expected to present a paper. The president was appointed the ECOWAS champion on the fight against COVID-19 during the extraordinary virtual summit of ECOWAS on April 23, 2020. President Buhari is also expected to coordinate the sub-regional response against the pandemic, while the summit will also receive a special report on the ECOWAS Single Currency Program, the 2020 interim report on activities of the sub-regional body, including ECOWAS Vision 2050. The alarming rise in incidents of terrorism, insurgency, armed banditry and piracy will also be discussed alongside the democratic process by the military in Mali. Well, other West African leaders are in attendance in Niger, including President Alassane Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire, President Adama Barrow of the Gambia, among several others. The summit is focused on talks to form a civilian government in neighboring Mali. Host of the summit, Nigerian President Mahamadou Issoufou, says the military junta must work with the economic community of West African states to find a solution to the political crisis in the country. President Issoufou, the current chairperson of the West African Bloc, made the remarks while opening the 57th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. According to him, it is the duty of ECOWAS to assist Malians with the rapid recovery of all democratic institutions. Mali's military ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta on August the 18th, following weeks of protests in the country. Now, prior to this summit in Niamey, Côte d'Ivoire's President Alassane Ouattara met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Paris concerning a third-term bid. Mr. Ouattara's decision to run for a third term as president in October's election has sparked tensions and protests around the country. He had initially ruled out running for re-election, but he reconsidered following the unfortunate death of his preferred successor, Prime Minister Amadou Gon Coulibaly, who had been nominated by the ruling party. However, his opponents say a third-term bid is unconstitutional. Electioneering now begins in full swing in the country, with Mr. Ouattara having a state visit to the Moronu region from Wednesday 9th to 12th of September. At the same time, Constitutional Council is expected to pronounce on his candidacy within 15 days and also confirm the list of 44 candidates that have applied to be president. We have joining us now for more on this is Liane de Bassompierre, journalist in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you so much, Liane, for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Lovely to be on the show.
Well, it's election campaign season in the country. Tell us what the mood is like in the nation, especially among political parties.
Well, as you rightly said earlier, the mood is quite tense as they await the Constitutional Council confirming how many of the 44 who had applied to run for the presidency has been confirmed. The deadline for the admission of applications was the 31st of August, so that was last Monday, and the Constitutional Council has until around the middle of September to confirm that list. They have to do it within 15 days. There is some more tension and possibly even more violence expected around that due date when that list is announced, because there are a couple of contentious issues, as you rightly mentioned. The fact that the president is going for a third term, that the opposition says is unconstitutional. We will then, after that process, be able to know whether any of the opposition parties will be going or fighting that Constitutional Council ruling, allowing the president to run, if it does rule, in fact, that he is allowed to run for a third term.
All right, and we know President Ouattara met with French President Emmanuel Macron over the weekend. What more can you tell us about that meeting?
Well, we know that French President Emmanuel Macron has, in recent years, been he's been saying over and over that he doesn't want to be like former French presidents and having a lot of control and a lot of say in what happens in their former colonies. So he has been quite silent, in fact, since Alassane Ouattara announced on the 6th of August that he'll be going for a third term. He had said back in March that he applauded him for handing over to another generation. But of course, things have changed. Their meeting on Friday, which was a lunch meeting, details of that meeting have not really been that apparent. The Ivorian presidency released a statement shortly after, not really mentioning what was said with regards to the president running for a third term. The French president may just wait until after the Constitutional Council has ruled on whether he's allowed to run.
All right, just before I let you go, Liane, let's talk about the ECOWAS summit. President Ouattara is in Niamey with his other West African counterparts. Now, sticking point of that summit is actually the political crisis in Mali. Do you know of any other main subjects of discussion?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the ongoing discussions around what's happening in Mali, that, of course, is the highlight of this ordinary session of ECOWAS leaders. But the other issue, of course, is the common currency. The world had looked on with great anticipation that this common currency would come into effect this year, but the Niger president, in opening today's proceedings, said that that had been delayed and that they would be actually working on a new roadmap in terms of rolling out that common currency, the ECO.
All right then, Liane de Bassompierre, thank you so much for speaking to us, journalist from Abidjan. Thank you. Moving on to Guinea, veteran opposition leader Cellou Dalein Diallo has accepted the nomination of his UFDG party to challenge President Alpha Condé. President Condé, who is seeking a third term in office, defeated Diallo in a runoff in 2010 and won in the first round of the 2015 presidential election. And he's pushed through a constitution amendment in a referendum in March that lifted a term limit, allowing him to run again. However, there have been protests against this change. Dalein Diallo joined forces with other opposition parties to lead the demonstrations, and he says he does not recognize the new constitution. Well, Rwanda's president has denied that his government kidnapped Paul Rusesabagina, whose widely acclaimed heroism inspired a Hollywood movie, Hotel Rwanda. Last week, Rusesabagina was arrested for terrorism and other charges. Appearing on national television on Sunday, President Kagame did not explain how Rusesabagina, who had lived outside Rwanda since 1996 and is a citizen of Belgium and has a U.S. permanent residency permit, was brought back to Rwanda. The 66-year-old's family has said they believe he was kidnapped during a visit to Dubai and that he would never knowingly have boarded a plane to Kigali. But President Kagame suggested that Rusesabagina came to the country of his own accord. South Africa has dropped to 7th among countries with the highest number of coronavirus cases globally as new cases continue to reduce. The US, India, Brazil, Russia, Peru, and Colombia are the top 6 nations in confirmed cases. South Africa reported 1,633 new cases on Sunday, taking the total number of cases to 638,517. Its death tolls from the pandemic stands at 14,889. South Africa has dropped 2 places in a span of 1 week after being overtaken by Peru, which neighbors Colombia early last week. However, South Africa's Health Minister Zweli Mkhize says although the numbers are reducing, the country is not over from the worst, fearing there could be a reinsurgence. Heavy rainfall and ecological destruction mean 2 lakes in Kenya are rising and they may merge. Now, this is threatening what locals say would be an ecological disaster.
The fresh waters of Kenya's Lake Baringo teem with birds, fish, hippos and crocodiles and sustain tens of thousands of people. But none of them can survive in the alkaline Lake Bogoria nearby. Now, heavy rainfall and ecological destruction means the 2 lakes are rising and may merge. The flooding is driving farmers from their land and residents from their homes. Locals say it will be an ecological disaster if the 2 lakes meet.
All my life started from here. It is quite disgusting to see a place you call home for most of your time going. When it started, we thought it would come. But as usual, it's difficult to move to a new place because this is a wonderful and amazing place to be.
Baringo, which irrigates land and provides drinking water, has expanded 60% to 105 square miles in the last 7 years, according to the government-run Kenya Wildlife Service. Lake Bogoria has swollen by a quarter to 16 square miles. Some farmers say their grazing has been destroyed. Conservationists say the rising waters are due to a combination of unusually heavy rains and the silting up of the lakes.
Still to come on Network Africa. National outrage in South Africa against an agency's advertisement which many people consider offensive to black people. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. 3 Somali Special Forces soldiers have been killed and a U.S. officer seriously wounded after a car bomb exploded outside the forces base in the country's southern region. A Somali soldier was also wounded in the attack in Jana Kabdale village, some 60 kilometers from the port city of Kismayu, which is also Jubaland's region's capital. Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab said they were behind the attack and put the number of the dead at 20. The group also says it had killed a U.S. personnel. Al-Shabaab has been fighting to topple Somalia's central government since 2008 to establish its own rule in the country. All delegates of Libya's rival administrations have met for talks in Morocco 2 weeks after the two sides declared a ceasefire. 5 delegates each met from the UN-recognized government in Tripoli and the rival parliament based in the eastern city of Tobruk. According to Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita, Morocco has no specific agenda but wants to give Libyans a chance to discuss the issues dividing them. Morocco hosted talks in 2015 that led to the creation of the UN-recognized government in Tripoli. Well, South Africa's government has introduced 3 bills in parliament to curb gender-based violence. President Cyril Ramaphosa has termed them as the most far-reaching legislative overhaul in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. The proposed changes seek to, among other things, create a new offense of sexual intimidation, allow for names of sex offenders to be publicly available, and tighten the granting of bail to perpetrators of violence against women. They also impose new obligations on police officers, prosecutors and courts in handling cases. Domestic Violence Act will be changed to cover couples in engagements, dating, in customary relationships, and actual or perceived romantic, intimate or sexual relationships of any duration. The amendments are a follow-up on the president's promise last year to change the laws on domestic abuse. Well, still in South Africa, pharmaceutical and beauty products retailer Clicks has found itself in the middle of a national outrage for showing an ad on its website which many consider offensive to black people's hair. Opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, blocked several outlets of Clicks, insisting the company's apology is not enough. They vow that the retail group must close down. The offending ad described 2 black women's hair as dry, damaged, frizzy and dull. On the same advert, it portrayed white women's hair as fine, flat and normal.
The protest stump is for what's been described as a racist advert, which went viral on Friday and caused national outrage. Despite Clicks Group issuing an apology, the Economic Freedom Fighters, an opposition party, went ahead with the planned protest at 6 venues of Clicks stores across South Africa. The EFF has warned that if Clicks doesn't close, their members will be picketing and shutting down all 880 Clicks stores across the country. The ad is for Unilever products flighted on a Clicks website, and the major outreach seems to be towards Clicks.
The advert was flighted by Clicks, and in their response to us, they agreed that it was flighted by them. So that thing of trying to divert us and saying, no, there was a third party and some racist boardroom dealings, we're not part of that. They are the one who put it on their social media pages, and they accepted that to us. So that's why we're dealing with them. They must go and deal with Unilever. If Unilever, they want to test us, tell them to put another advert themselves as Unilever on their social media pages. They will know us.
In a statement on Sunday evening, Clicks said that it planned to trade as normal on Monday and apologized for the campaign, calling it a mistake. The retail-led healthcare group employs approximately 15,347 people, in which nearly 80% are black people. Black women say they feel insulted by the advert.
I feel very offended because I've got like strictly natural hair. I don't relax my hair. I don't do anything to my hair. I've got natural, lovely, beautiful hair. Even under the weave, they're so nice and they're rich. It's not broken. It's not damaged. It's just rich.
For me as a woman, it's an insult because cliques should not define how a black woman should look. It is not in their scope. They are supposed to give services to black people, whites, Indians, and coloreds. So they have insulted me as a woman. They have insulted us in terms of the black pride. They have taken away one of the aspects of what makes us black.
Clicks Group CEO Vikesh Ramsunda confirmed that hair company Tresemme South Africa were the suppliers of the image, while employees who worked on the advert within Clicks have been suspended. Unilever, which is the maker of the Tresemme shampoo brand, has also apologized on its website, but the offended are still having none of that, insisting that there is no place for racism or racist insinuations in today's South Africa.
The United Nations marks 75 years since its establishment, and as leaders prepare for another General Assembly, this year's is bound to be slightly different, with both in-person and virtual meetings planned. Outgoing President of the General Assembly, Mr. Tijani Mohamed Bande, talks about what has kept the organization going strong for 75 years.
75 years is an important milestone for any organization, and the broad strokes we can say relating to how we assemble the organization is to be understood in relation to its principal concern, prevention of war, world war in particular, mainstreaming of human rights, and development. These are key elements of UN mandate: peace and security, human rights, and development. I think we worry obviously over continuing conflict in parts of the world, some going on for a long time. But we must look at the larger picture of not having experienced World War, probably the longest such peace for almost a quarter of a decade, a quarter of a century. This is absolutely important. Now, when you look at weapons of war that can create problem for humanity as humanity that are available in different parts of the world, and to see, despite our worry, and there are worries concerning a new arms race, we have not had, since the establishment of the organization, any new world war. This is important. We have protocols to limit development of weapons of mass destruction, though we struggle with success in that front as well. Now, the issue of rights, I think the United Nations has given leadership in mainstreaming rights, equality issues, and non-discrimination.
You can watch more on that exclusive interview on Diplomatic Channel tonight at 7:30 p.m. on DSTV platform and 8:30 p.m. on the Channels 24 platform. And that's where we end Network Africa today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.